Hi there, Will Taylor here with Military App Pilates. I love exercises which get loads of things done in one go. And today we've got a really great one. It's my version of the Pilates simple raise. Now, with injuries in the legs, you tend to get multiple things happening and going wrong. And some of those you'll feel, some of them you won't. But if we start at the bottom and work our way up, lots of you will have heard of the plantar fascia. You may have had plantar fasciopathy or plantar fasciitis as it's commonly referred to. Sole of the foot becomes really chronically annoyed, loads of repeated weight, heavy loading, and it can be really stubborn to get rid of. If the plantar fascia is grumpy, it's often twinned with shin splints or medial tibial stress syndrome. And those things will of course affect the calf compartment. You end up with calf muscles which are not working properly. They might get tight very quickly, they might get tired very quickly, they might feel like they're cramping very regularly. If those things are grumpy, it can lead to your Achilles tendon getting really gnarly as well, or maybe you've had a history of ankle sprains, you've just got this cascade of problems, and then of course the knees and hips are affected in a similar way. So if we can come up with something which works on all of those things and gets rid of these aberrant patterns and instead promotes functional movement in the legs, well great, if we can do all that in one exercise, even better. And that's where this version of the simple raise plays an absolute blinder. So I'm going to teach you that in this video. Now before I get into showing you how to perform the exercise, really quick intro into the biomechanics going on in the leg. Lots of those things I've just mentioned basically boil down to something I would refer to as an internal rotation syndrome, that collapse of the inner arch of the foot and all the associated problems up top. Now if I stand with my feet parallel and I give a good old fashioned buttock clench, engage the old buns of steel, I can feel how my legs rotate outwards, I can feel my knees rotating outwards, I can feel the inner arch of the foot lifting up. And that's critical because actually the glute max, the biggest muscle in the body by volume, is one of the chief stabilizers of the inner arch of the foot and therefore the control of the leg. Now when people have all these problems, like I mentioned in the intro, the patterning and the communication between everything goes a bit haywire. And if I were just to perform a simple heel raise, it might be okay, but it might not be. You don't know. It depends on how your legs are kind of pre-programmed to work. So we want to get something which fires things up before doing our exercise. And that's why I've got my trusty softball. Now if you haven't got a ball like this, you can use any sort of ball, tennis ball, weighted ball, rolled up big ball of socks, toilet roll, anything which is going to fit snugly between your ankles. And then I'm going to take the weight onto the front of my feet, and now I'm going to squeeze my heels together. So my whole legs are doing what I just did with the glute clench, and as soon as I bring those heels together, I can feel all this lot kick in. Keeping that consistent squeeze on the ball between my heels, I'm now going to perform the Pilates simple raise, which is also just commonly referred to as a heel raise. Now, as you're doing that, the aim is to keep the pressure on whatever you've got between your heels consistent and to get this control going up and down. A lot of people will be able to go up and then they'll just hurtle back down to earth with a bump, and that's going to be accompanied with rocking back and the toes lifting up. So take the weight onto the front of the feet, squeeze the heels, reasonable effort, but not feeling like you're going to burst whatever's between your legs. And then floating up and keep those toes pressed down, particularly the big one, and control that descent. Now the amount you lift up doesn't really matter. I mean, hopefully with practice you get up to a higher height. But the main thing is keeping that consistent squeeze so that you're firing up all these muscles we've spoken about, chiefly the glute max, as you're performing this exercise. Now this keeps your calf muscles in a better alignment, and so you want to make sure that you're not too splayed out in your foot angle. You want to be near enough where you're going to be when you're walking, so somewhere about parallel, but it doesn't matter if there's that slight angle out. Now when you're doing these exercises, you can hold on if you need to, that's of course fine, because we're just getting these calf muscles working with the assistance of all that external rotation when we do this exercise. Now once you've got to grips with doing this straight knee version where you're coming straight up and straight down, a really great one to do is with your knees bent as well. This is going to bring in different calf muscle bias. I'm thinking about soleus taking over from the gastrocnemius here. It's going to feel a bit tricky. So as you're performing this one, it's your body coming up and down rather than your body staying still and doing that version. So you're floating up and down, and then you're going to work deeper calf muscles. But again, you've got that external rotation kicking in. This one's an absolute belter for me because it works with all those things. It gets the legs moving functionally. So it's great whether you're getting on a bit in age and you just want a nice warm up to do and a little bit of gentle calf strengthening, it's great as a warm up for any age group before going for your walks or runs. It's one I get athletes to do as well because it just primes those leg muscles to all work in a much better way, and that's what I mean by functional movement. So the Pilates simple raise with that heel squeeze, parallel feet, consistent squeeze, control up and down, keep the toes anchored. For me, it's one of the best exercises going because of all those things it works on, and it's just such a simple one. Anybody can do it. You can stick anything between your heels, and therefore no excuses for not having that in your locker.